What is up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 32 of the Out and Back podcast. We are a mere 8 days away from the 2026 Boston Marathon. We're both very, very stoked to get on the starting line. Wait to see so many of you guys out there. This week's episode, we talked all about Boston. We talked about this year's field, how it stacks up to previous year's field, the depth of not just American distance running, but just distance running and marathoners in general right now. I think we're kind of at an all-time high. We talked about that a little bit throughout this show. We also sat down and we did a deep dive into the numbers of our own personal buildups. I think on paper, talk is cheap, but on paper, it sounds like, looks like, adds up to be the best builds of both of our careers, and we're really excited for how things are going. And we also talk about the World Marathon Championships that are going to launch in 2030 and some things we think are going to make or break this new event. And lastly, we kind of talked about how hard it is to be dominant, especially on the Olympic level, year after year, Olympic cycle after Olympic cycle. So a lot of cool topics here. Hope you guys enjoy it. Should get you super stoked as you guys head into Boston Marathon weekend. We can't wait to see so many of you guys out there on the course. And I think we've said this before, but if you guys see us out there, please shout out, take a picture, get a video, send it to us. We would love that. Also, these hats right here are in. We have 80 of these hats, so we're currently trying to set up our Shopify store. New territory for us, so bear with us as we get that set up. We will also have the hats with us in person at the Shakeout Run that we're going to do on April 18th, Saturday, 12:30 at the Hatch Memorial Shell, which is right along the Esplanade in Boston. We're doing that in conjunction with the Life in Stride boys. So we will be there. We hope to see a lot of you guys there. Sounds like we're going to have a pretty big crowd. So yeah, go crush. If you're going to do the mile or the 5K that morning, go crush it and then come join us for your shakeout / cool down. Or if you're there for the marathon only, come get your shakeout run in with us. We can't wait to see you there. Also, if you prefer watching, we've heard a lot of people prefer watching podcasts, which kind of blew my mind. But yeah, so now we're on YouTube. And this week's episode, we were in a studio. The video format is great. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. Out and Back podcast. Also, both of our personal YouTube pages have been doing really well, getting a lot of traction, I think, from the podcast. And we will both have new videos out this week before the Boston Marathon. I think we'll both kind of shoot for April 15th, 16th range for our pre-Boston YouTube videos. So check out my channel. It's brand new. Check out Rory's channel. It's been doing well for years. And yeah, hit that newsletter in our link as well. Hope you guys enjoy this week's episode. We'll see you soon. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of the Out and Back podcast. We have even more new exciting things this week as we are 1 week out from the Boston Marathon. If you're watching, we are now also on YouTube, and you can watch our videos, or like podcast video on Spotify as well. And for that, we got ourselves a little studio space.
Yeah, we are using my strength and conditioning coach, Jesse Prescott's studio here today. Just a trial run, see how we like it, see how we flow differently or better, maybe, hopefully better, in a studio setting versus in our own homes on Riverside. So kind of fun, but yeah, we got a fun between reps episode here for you guys today, episode 32 of the Out and Back podcast. We're going to do some between reps. I think this is our 4th or 5th iteration of doing this, and we got some fun topics. But I think before we get into some new topics, I think it's appropriate to circle back to our last podcast episode where Gabby asked me what I could run pushing a stroller, and that got a lot of traction on the socials. I said I believe I could OTQ pushing a stroller. And after much, much thought, I still think I could do it. I still think OTQ is possible. I am certain I could break 220. So I'm putting my range of outcomes between 215 flat and 220 flat. And I'd say somewhere in there. And we are open to the idea of fielding some real offers to see if we can make this happen at some point. And I am walking back my Boston take that would be a fast course because of the downhill, because I think the uphills, I'd run like a 7-minute mile pushing a stroller up some of those hills, possibly. So
possibly slower. I don't know. People without strollers sometimes run slower than 7-minute miles up those hills. I think, I think it was Zach Bittner that posted about it, and I think he said the stroller world record is
231.
231. And that was about 12. That was a 218 or 219 guy
Yeah,
that
it was
had done
Cal
that.
Neff, fellow Canadian from the same town in Canada as me. He's a Calgarian, lives in Houston, Texas. He did that at the Toronto Waterfront Marathon, pushing a 5-year-old. So the world record, he admitted, I talked to Callum himself, and he admitted that there's a lot of room to improve even for himself on that. And he's a 218, 219 guy. Sorry if we're misquoting you, Callum. I know you're around there, Cal Neff, but the bottom line is he ran about 12 to 13 minutes slower than his PB, pushing a 5-year-old at Toronto. And I think better course, lighter cargo, possibly.
Yeah, I feel like the cargo has a big, like that's going to, I mean, if you're pushing a 50-pound weight versus a 15-pound weight, that's obviously going to affect things quite a bit. So maybe there should be like a standard weight that we put in the stroller. If it was, say, to come to a competition and multiple people
Yeah.
were going to be in it, everyone should have the same kettlebell or whatever in
Yeah.
their stroller.
I've got an extremely light 4-year-old son and a pretty light 2-year-old daughter, so maybe we could figure that out. A lot of people were also concerned, both messaging my wife Jill and commenting that I was going to traumatize a baby infant because I mentioned the fact that I was going to do newborn for lightness.
Little shaken baby syndrome
Look,
out there.
it wasn't flushed out. It was a call in. It was a call in situation. I had no idea what Gabby was going to ask me. We haven't flushed out this idea. So after more thought, I think a little bit of an older kid for the kid's safety and flat course for sure, and definitely sub 220 with, I still think, a possibility of OTQ time. And I'm not saying I would run the Olympic trials. I'm saying that that's the time I think I could run. Another person was worried that I was switching allegiances because I mentioned the OTQ.
Yeah, safe to say you're going to stick with Canada here. Also, what a shout out to this neon sign that we got from one of Rory's athletes and also an out and back listener.
Yeah, Manuel gave us that sign. We don't have it set up
We're
properly
going to
yet.
figure out a way to set this up. Maybe like, I think it would go good if we ended up getting like a garage bar type of situation for a studio. This would be a perfect like downstairs bar, garage bar edition.
Yep. Day one out and backer, Manuel, 229 guy that I coach. He's also running Boston, so look out for him. Anyways, moving into more specific stuff going forward, we thought we'd maybe share a couple training updates and thoughts as we normally do in a Between Reps pod. And so let's start here. What are some underrated skills of training? This is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I was on the mileage podcast recently, and they asked me a lot of questions that got me thinking about this exact topic. It's like, what are skills in training that help people improve that maybe any runner, any level can, grab onto, whether it be intensity control, being able to be precise on paces, range of paces, recovery, ability to stack fitness, whatever. What are some of the things you're thinking of, JT, when I think of like an underrated skill for training, specifically for the marathon? We'll keep it honed in.
I think for all training, no matter what level of running you're doing it at, the number one skill, and people say it's maybe not like what you first think of when you think of a talent when it comes to running, but the best talent and skill you can have is just consistency. Not getting too high or too low, but if you can just, any endurance sport, I go over this with any athlete I coach, but like any endurance sport from running, cycling, swimming, any aerobic activity, if you can just be consistent over a long period of time, you're going to beat the super talented guy who has these giant swings in momentum every single time over a course of, long period of time.
Okay, so riffing off that, how can someone be consistent? What skill do they have to possess in order to be consistent? Because I think of consistency and I'm like, well, the way to be consistent is to recover between sessions or know your efforts, know your intensities, know what you can and can't do on a given day so that you don't let it bleed into the next day. Is there a specific way you think you've developed consistency or you've seen athletes you coach develop their consistency?
Yeah, I think, well, you got to stay injury free. You can't be consistent if you're on the sideline. So being injury free is the first step of that. And then the second part, I think a lot of people look at their workouts as they're trying to prove to themselves their fitness in those workouts and they're trying to beat their workouts. And that's not necessarily what you want to do. It's almost like you need to know when like good is good enough and then be able to take confidence from that. Like, okay, I checked the box today. The goal paces for this tempo run or the goal paces for this track workout were this. I hit them. I didn't need to smash them because that's not the goal.
That way I can turn around 2 days later, I can do this again. I can turn around 2 days later and I can do this again. And then you do that
Hmm.
for a week and month and month. And then next thing you know, like, hey, look at where I was 3 years ago and look how good I am now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from being able to know what you are capable of on a given day in given circumstances, right? So, for example, I went down for a workout I've done many times, 10 by K off of 90 to 2 minutes rest. Uh, Goal is run roughly 10K to 5K if effort or intensity, maybe a little bit more aggressive by the end, like really aggressive 5K effort. But that workout, I went into it. I've done this before. I kind of know on like, hey, if it's good weather, I've done it on this location before. What is good for me and what is good enough? What is sufficient for what I'm going for today? And being able to be precise in how you execute your workouts and knowing, hey, this is all I need to do today to check that box rather than kind of guessing on the fly. And I think that that comes with experience. And if your coach and you are on the same page, then there should be no problem like finding that groove within your workouts and within training from a macro or micro sense. So in that workout, I remember before the workout, I was like, I think I'll probably start around 245 and finish around 235 if everything goes well. Lo and behold, was able to lock it in, ran 245 for the first one, 235 for the last one, and was really consistent and precise with how I etched it down towards that. And yeah, I think that that's an underrated skill is to know your paces and your efforts really well and being able to check your ego as well and throw maybe pace aside on a day where pace isn't going to be the same, like when conditions are poor or whatnot.
Yeah, I think that also like goes into keeping your bad days from being too bad and your good days from being like just because you feel good doesn't mean like maybe you should push it a little bit, but it's not like, hey, I feel good today. Let me really just smash this and try to run 228 on the last one. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yep.
And then you could get out there and be like, oh man, I feel really crappy today, but like instead of like putting up a complete egg and like this being awful, like maybe I just get down to 240 or maybe I just hold steady at 245s, but I don't have like a
Yeah.
complete shit the bed moment. I think avoiding those complete shit the bed moments and then avoiding doing something that you're going to risk getting hurt or risk your next workout by going too hard. Just keep it between the navigational beakers. Is that what Alan Jackson says? You just got to keep it between the navigational beakers sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and another, like, thing that I think is an underrated skill of training and something that we talked about talent with, Griff in the last pod, and I started thinking about that more and thinking about the athletes we know, whether it be through our coaching or through the professional running world, and what I deem as, like, a really unique skill is the ability to have a variety of paces at your disposal within a training block, right? So we're training for a marathon. I think it's really important, and I think you share that philosophy with me that to be a really good marathoner, you also have to probably have all of these tools at your disposal, whether it be like the ability to touch 5K, 1500, 3K pace, and be strong at like the steady miles that are slower than marathon pace. And I'd say a skill of like someone who's training at a really, really high level is someone who can have within a marathon block, within maybe a week or two of each other, a banger marathon session and also flex the wheels. And that's like a skill of training that I kind of value and seek out in my own training is like, oh, can I break 60 seconds in a 400 feeling smooth and can I go do a 20-mile long run averaging 520 pace?
Yeah, I think we both kind of did that like recently. You with your K workout this week, and then I did that last week. I was on the track for the first time in a while in this block, and yeah, I was able to go get down to I averaged 210 for 800s, got down to 206 at the end, and it's yeah, I'm not going to go race a 5K anytime soon, but it's
Yeah.
nice to know that I can touch 5K, PR pace or what was probably pretty comfortable 5K pace a couple years ago when yeah the 5K was my main goal.
Yeah. And if I had one thing that I see the most common mistake in an amateur marathoner, because people that start doing marathons at an amateur level, I feel like they jump right into the marathon because it's the sexy event and they never ever give these other paces the time and attention they deserve to develop the whole athlete. So I'll get an athlete that I start coaching and they'll be like, I'm tapped out at like 3 hours for the marathon. And I'll be like, oh, well, what's your 5K PR? And they'll say like 18:45. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's your problem right there. Your 5K pace and your marathon pace are getting dangerously close to each other, and you want to be able to give that as much space as possible. And then as you develop your aerobic capacity, eventually they're going to start to converge again.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be so strong that you can't go much faster than this. But yeah, as an underdeveloped athlete, there should be a big range in paces that you're capable of hitting. And so, yeah, it's just got me thinking about what matters in my own training, in the training of the athletes I coach, and it's just that ability to kind of tap into multiple systems within a short period of time.
Yeah, it's very much the process I went through with Chris Striegel, our buddy Chris Striegel, is he was just his MO is just like, let me just grind marathon pace all the time. So he was running all these workouts in a really tight window around five. He's a 222 guy. So like running 520 pace was like basically all he did. And he was kind of self-coaching himself. So he knew that was his strength and he was just like leaning into it. And he was just doing all these steady long runs, marathon pace miles in the middle of long runs, tempo workouts at marathon pace. And I was like, hey man, like if you actually want to try to chase this OTQ and you have 2 years to get it, like what do you need to do to get to 216, which is 511 pace? Like if we can't just run 520 pace all the time and expect that we're going to just keep getting better and better and better at it, like you need to also raise the ceiling. Like he kind of raised the floor and just wanted to like stay right there, but it's like, all right, let's raise the ceiling. Let's do reps at 5-minute pace. Let's get down, see if we can run 450 pace for Ks and stuff like that. And unfortunately, he had a tough go at the McCurdy Micro. He got a really bad blister, but he was
On it.
he was on pace through 20 and a half miles. And now I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to go, because we were very much getting ready for that, like even pace, flat course, fast with a pacer. And now he's hopping into Boston, which the intent was for him to fun run kind of Boston after smashing a marathon PR a couple weeks before. So, his foot's kind of healed up. He did his first workout yesterday actually, and off of the race, and he was really worried about coming off of the race. Like, oh, is this a good idea, bad idea? Like, I feel like I haven't run in so long, and I was like, hey, like it's basically you did 20 miles at goal marathon pace. That's kind of like doing a big.
That's a huge workout.
Yeah, I was like, we wouldn't work out for like 4 or 5 days after doing that kind of session, anyway. So that's basically what you did. You just like did this workout, and then you didn't, because he took off from Sunday to Friday. He took 5 days totally off to let his foot heal. Because it was like his whole heel. I've never seen a blister that size of a heel before.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I think it works incredibly well.
Yep.
He would have broken 220. And he has the tool. He basically has the tool bag to do it now.
Yeah. And we deep dove into Ethan Schule's training after his breakthrough 207 performance. And I think that was one of our biggest realizations, is not a ton of MP work, traditional MP work in there. High volume to build an aerobic engine, good long runs to build an aerobic engine, and a lot of pace at like that critical velocity LT2 high end threshold work that's faster than marathon pace, but makes you more efficient and smooth at marathon pace. So really he did the high low approach. The volume and the long runs gave him the strength to hold an intense effort for a very long time. And then the quality of his 10K half marathon, 5K workouts, it was just helping him get like a bigger range of possibilities on race day. And that gave him the confidence to go out at 205 pace and hold on for a 207 on that day.
Yeah, I saw. Speaking of Ethan Schule, he just ran a 5K on the track.
So his first sub 14, I think,
First
of his
sub
life.
14.
So a little bit of a breakthrough for Ethan. Shout out Ethan. We'll get him on at some point, but I feel like we were going to wait for his podcast tour to end, maybe for him to announce something new for us. But yeah, we'll be following his journey in Japan and see what's up next for him.
I think I think this is what we should do with Ethan. I think Ethan should go race Chicago next year. Should come train in Flagstaff before Chicago, and then we can have him in the studio.
That would be sweet.
Do a live pod.
Yeah, he told me that he can't train in Japan in the summers, that it's just too hot, humid, and miserable. So he said it's likely he comes back to North America, whether it be Provo where he's trained in the past, or I was trying to convince him, just come train at Flagstaff for a bit, try it out. Everybody should try Flagstaff, and at least see what the lore is. I think it's worth its weight in gold. So
All right. Well, let's move to our next topic here. We're going to talk about how hard it is to consistently be at the top of American marathoning. We did a deep dive into the Olympic teams from 2000 all the way to 2024. And take a guess at how many people made consecutive teams. So, 2008, 2012. How many? So that's what? 2004, 8, 12, 16, 20. 7?
7 Olympics.
7 Olympic trials. How many people made 2 teams in a row?
Well, I know the answer, but it's 3 men and 3 women have done back-to-back Olympic teams. And the reason why we wanted to touch on this is going into Boston, we're talking about the pro field, we're talking about all this, and recent guest of the podcast, Connor Mance, was announced not that long ago as a withdrawal from Boston. And, we are halfway between Olympics now. It's 2026. Connor was the man in 2024, got 8th at the Olympics, came off the Olympics on a tear, and here we are staring in the middle of a cycle. 2028's around the corner. A lot of guys running really well that'll be in Boston. And it got us thinking, like, Clayton and Connor, those are my college teammates. They're my friends. I want to see them do well, but it got me thinking about how hard it's going to be for those guys to both be back on the Olympic team in 2028. And I'm not doubting either one of them individually. It's more so just acknowledging how rare this is in our sport. When you run for a country like, say, Kenya, Ethiopia, Japan, the US, the ones with insane depth, how hard it is to be right on the right day, make your team, be hot at the right time, going into an Olympic year. There's not a lot of people that can do it back-to-back cycles. Galen Rupp, Ryan Hall, Meb Keflezighi, those are your men that have done it since 2000. Des Linden, Shalane Flanagan, and Dina Castor. Those are your women. Those are the GOATs.
And I mean, see, Abdi is the other one, but his weren't consecutive. He had
a
gap in the middle. He missed one and then made it again. And I guess it was technically 2021 trials, whatever we're going to call that one. But yeah, it's incredibly, incredibly hard to do. And then, now I think the depth, I mean, the old guys are going to probably get mad at us for saying this, but I think the depth of U.S. American running is by far better than ever.
Yeah.
We're a little bit later in the podcast, we're going to talk about the depth of the Boston Marathon this year versus previous years. And it's crazy what times would have gotten you 15th place, 20th place, basically for a whole decade ago. And those times now,
you can't even be in the elite field.
Yeah, they wouldn't give you bottles or they wouldn't even let you have entry to the hotel.
Yeah, you might be starting in the
wave 2
route, wave 2 with those same finishing times. We're in a renaissance of running, and it's interesting to figure out what we attribute that to. And I guess our point is that there's no shoe-ins, and as fans of the sport go into this next Olympic cycle, it's important to realize that even right now, the people that you would like, let's pencil in 3 guys and gals to the U.S. Olympic team or the Kenyan Olympic team. These countries with great depth. So much can change in 18 months. New people coming up. It's all about timing, health, luck. It's so many factors.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to be at the top of the U.S. with how good people are, and it seems now people are going to the marathon earlier and earlier. I mean, Alex Mayer's 25.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of really good, like Mance was 24, 25 when he had his debut. So people are going to the marathon earlier, and it's not just, oh, this guy was an All-American in cross country, and then several years later he's going to try out the marathon. Like, these are the America's top guys, and they're going to the marathon straight away. And I mean, I would be willing to say there's probably a guy it's on nobody's radar who's going to run 2:06 and make the team in the next couple of years who's not even on the marathon scene yet. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
If you go look at the history again, dive into past Olympic trials results, there's always one wild card. Like in the women's side in 2020, guest of this podcast, 2024 guest of this podcast, nobody saw either of these people. Jess McLean, nobody was like, oh, she'll be 4th. She'll be right there. She was 4th. And Dakota Lindworm at the time, now Popane, was not anybody's pick for the team. She made it and was the top American at the Olympics, and now is kind of cemented her legacy amongst top American women of the 2020s, really. And so nobody had her picked 2 years before the 2024 Olympic trials. And I guess that's just to hammer in the point that it's kind of fun not knowing, and that's what makes it cool. The volatility of this sport gives the underdog hope that, hey, maybe I'll strike it right. Maybe I'll have the perfect 6 to 12 months leading into the trials. And that's why the trials are such an high value entertainment product and such a big deal in the US, is because it's kind of one of those things where if you're at least good enough to convince yourself you've got a chance, there's something magical there.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm totally supposed to say this, but they made it public knowledge that the trials location is supposed to be announced in May, so we should know within the next handful of weeks where the trials are going to be. And yeah, it's crazy to think like 2024 seems like so long ago, but yeah, the trials being in less than 24 months also seems like it's right around the corner. At
Yeah.
the same time, like
Yeah.
we're at that kind of halfway point, and yeah, within the next month here, we'll know if it's either going to be Phoenix or
Same.
St. Louis, and yeah, those two races are going to bring their own like obstacles, whether it's going to be the heat of 11 a.m. marathon in Phoenix, or
In
if it's going to
March.
in March, or if it's going to be St. Louis, which I heard that course can be pretty hilly. I don't know if they've had the exact course, but St. Louis is a pretty hilly place. So
Yeah, in my lifetime of being a fan of this sport, I watched the LA trials with the special interest of Jared Ward, who was training at BYU while I was at BYU. So I watched his build, watched him go to the LA trials for the Rio Olympics. And that was a noon start in LA in February. And it was like 82 degrees, humid on a looped course, which is sounds like if it's Phoenix, could look very similar from like a tactical standpoint of how it plays out
yeah,
versus like that previous one.
I think they've said if it's in Phoenix, it's going to be what, an 8 mile loop with a little bit of add on for the start and finish.
Yeah. And so, and it'll be hot, sun exposed. There's no shade in Phoenix.
Yeah,
There's no trees. So it's a desert. So it will be a very interesting game that is played there. And yeah, it just got, as a fan of the sport, for me as like a neutral observer, I get to enjoy this stuff without the stress of thinking about how I'm gonna do. I find it fascinating, and I find it fascinating not just in the U.S., but Japan has an Olympic trials that's super intense. Ethiopia and Kenya, the two best countries in the world, they don't do a trial so much as they do like a selection process. But like, think of who they're leaving off these teams every 4 years. Like,
I
they're
mean,
probably leaving home a medalist every time.
Sharon Lokedi was fourth at the last Olympics, and she only got in because a 216 woman got hurt and withdrew.
Yeah,
And so I think she found out like 8 weeks before the Olympics, so she was going.
yeah.
And she was their alternate, and she had won, New York champion podium at Boston at the time. Now she's come back and won Boston as well. So yeah, those countries are incredibly deep, and it does. I think there's a lot of politics probably go into who ends up making those teams as well, because it's like, all right, do you want the 215 at Berlin woman, or do you want the 220 woman, but it's one New York? It was a lot
It's
of
really favoritism. I would be so mad if I was like a top Kenyan, top Ethiopian, like waiting on pins and needles to decide if I get to be selected to represent my country. For me as a Canadian, I know if my standing is clear enough, I'm good. Like, I
yeah,
made the 2024 team, but I was one of two guys
to
in the
have the
country
standard.
that had the standard. And let's say it was four guys, that five guys, like Australia, the women, they do a selection. They had four women that had the standard. And it was like this big drama of which three do they take. And it got dicey and it got nasty. So yeah, I kind of hope for my sake that it's not left up to discretion and it's just clear cut. So because people's careers and lives are, on the line here.
Definitely. Well, speaking of the Olympic marathon, Seb Coe and our leaders over at the IAAF have come out and said they're going to launch the World Marathon Championships in Athens, hopefully starting in 2030. What do you take of that? I think there's a lot of things that could make this a super cool event, and there's a lot of things that could make this a really stupid event, and it really depends on what Seb and the boys decide to do with it.
Yeah. So my initial thought was, oh, that sounds fun. I want to run a marathon in Athens in 2030. I'll be depending on what time of year it is, I'll be in my 34th year of life. I'll be at the apex of my pro career, hopefully still running at a high level and having fun with it. But who knows? That's like we just said, there's a lot of volatility in this sport, but it's a lifetime away, but it's also fun to dream about. And I was thinking, how does this fail and how does this work? And I'll start with how it works. Timing is going to be the number one thing for a world marathon standalone championship to work. You have to put it in a place of the year that doesn't have it competing too much with our world marathon major schedules. So,
I
with
see that as like almost setting it up to fail though, because there's a major almost every couple of months.
yeah, so let's go through the Rolodex here, starting with the beginning of the year. First major of every year is Tokyo in March, then Boston in April, London in April. Now we add Sydney in August, Berlin in September, Chicago
Chicago,
in October,
New
and
York
New
in
York in
November.
November. So that's the seven majors. There's in theory a gap where you know, December, January, February is pretty vacant, and you'd be chasing good weather, at least on the northern hemisphere. You'd probably be in the peak best time of year to run those events, or you flip it and you run it in those summer months, those that dead months between May, June, and July. I think it has to be in either of those, and since it's going to be Athens, you don't want to run a marathon in Athens in May, June, or July. The way this works, and it works well, is if it's like end of January, where people could still come back for a spring marathon and collect their world marathon major appearance or whatever they're chasing, but can kind of dedicate a block to the world marathon championships. That's my thought on timing. Do you have any other thoughts on timing?
Yeah, the timing. I just see the timing is like really difficult because that's kind of the reason that the World Championships marathon, compared to the majors, usually is people turn it down. Like you turned it down this summer. Our friend Bias Mbassa turned down his spot is because you have the opportunity to make so much more money by going to a Chicago or New York or whatever. Why would you go run a marathon with not that much money in August just because? And I think that's like if it's going to be different than the world champs, then it needs to have something different to it than it just being
A
basically
different,
the world champs, but just its own event.
yeah, and this is part two of this. So timing is one aspect that they gotta nail when they come to terms with how this is going to work. The second aspect is, to be honest, financial incentive. Like either the brands all have to agree that they want to incentivize the athletes through bonus structure to go and compete at the world championships. Like let's say Puma sees this down the line or Under Armour sees this down the line and they go, we want our best marathoners to target this because we care about it. So we're going to put it in the bonus structure. We're going to put it in the incentives of the contract. We're going to push our athletes towards that. That's one way. The other way is if World Athletics can come up with the money to make this like I don't know, like the best prize purse in the history of road racing, say. That's how I think depth of prize purse and top. Like if you want to get John Career to agree to do this, or a guy like that, the best Kenyan, he's got to turn down something else to say yes to this, or try to squeeze it in and risk costing himself a victory at a Boston or a victory at a Chicago. So
And a victory at a Boston's probably all in all worth over $1 million.
yeah, when you account for opportunities down the line,
Appearance fees,
prize money,
yeah,
everything, like we
it's
can
probably a
get.
couple $100,000 on the day, and then your lifetime earnings from that are probably at least $1 million. So if you're going to turn that an opportunity to do that down to go to this, it has to match it somewhere.
And Danny Perkins, when he did the call in with us, he mentioned that we need like this structure like golf or something where you could have like the allure, the majors, the money. We talked about that briefly. And it's like, is there a possibility, whether it be through sponsors, through World Athletics pockets, through something to make this big enough that it can't fail? That's my question, and I'm skeptical. I don't think that they're unless I mean, I had the idea. I don't necessarily support this. I disavow, but like get the Saudis to put $1 billion in it. Like there you go.
Yeah.
That's the answer to your question. Like you can split that 15 deep both ways, men's women's race, then solve the problem immediately. You would get the best in the world to show up because anyone would be like, oh, snap. If I get top 10 at this race, I walk away with like a career year in earnings. Like that's how you get this too big to fail, but I don't see how that's going to happen.
This is a different spin on it, but what would you think would happen if this would take a lot of coordination with the IAAF and the majors? But if there was a major, and say it has to rotate every year, if there was a major that for that year was
The World
championship. So
Championship.
it's like, hey, this year it's Chicago, next year it's Sydney, the next year it's Boston, and whatever the major is, it's like, okay, that
Double the prize
purse,
double the
and like,
operating budget.
yeah, and it's worth more at World Athletic points, and that way everybody, the best of the best, incentivized or very incentivized to go to that specific major
I
that
love
year.
that idea. I honestly love that idea. And I think it would be really cool if for 1 year everybody was incentivized to run Berlin.
Yeah.
Everybody was incentivized to run Tokyo. Uh, it would change what we can understand about how these races are different, because we end up getting into our regional bias, right? So like I've talked about how much I love Boston, and we had Phil Sessman on, and Phil Sessman's like, "Oh, I love London. I would never not do London." But what if there was something that could pull people away from their regional or brand or national bias and throw them in Tokyo? What if all the best Americans went to Tokyo 1 year just because there was enough on the line there? I'd be really curious what could happen there. And then we could answer a lot of the questions that we lack answers for in this sport, which is, how do we stack up as nations against the global titans? We know we can kind of extrapolate, like, oh, if you got this place at Boston, that's like relatively similar. But really, the Olympics are the only other time on the calendar in our sport that we can actually be like, oh, that means that person was that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would take a lot of coordination, like I said, but I do think that would be like a pretty cool way to see it because, yeah, I want to go race the European guys, but like,
Where?
yeah, where like they're not coming to Boston, they're not coming to Chicago.
And if they are, that's only a few. It's like it's
Yeah.
not big enough of a sample
Yeah, I mean,
size.
there's a handful of Europeans obviously at Boston and stuff, and probably be a handful of Americans at London. Actually, I don't even know if there is a handful of Americans at London.
No, not this year.
Yeah, at least not this year. So
Casey Klinger went to Tokyo. That was like the only international spice that we had in a overseas.
Cam went for Canada, but yeah, it would be really cool if like the best 10 marathoners or the best 5 marathoners from each country were incentivized to go to the same major every year, and that would be my take on making it a world championship.
Yep. So let's pivot away from the World Marathon Championship and talk about our marathon builds right now and compare them. I did this for fun because I kind of like looking back on my training and really kind of gaining confidence from the work I've done at the end of a block. Made it through, knock on wood, another marathon block, gonna be on a start line again in Boston. Let's look at this compared to my other marathon blocks. And I used last year as my comparison to this year because it was the best example of like my most recent successes. Chicago was a PB, Boston was a PB before that. And I like did a meta analysis of the entire block, comparing it between those two other races. So I compared Boston 26 to Boston 25 and Chicago 25. And it was really cool to dive into those numbers and see what I'm doing differently. But did you have the chance to do something similar for yourself,
I
JT?
did. I pulled up compared it to basically my best 3 marathons, and yeah, I have the numbers here, so I think that would be fun to dive in. So we pulled in our peak week. So what was you just want to go through these like one by one? I pulled the same stats that you had.
Pick up a few things that you think stand out about maybe this block compared to other blocks. And then we can kind of do like a meta, like, what does this mean? What do we think? Why did we do this? Like, kind of just dive into it.
Yeah, I'm big on the consistency thing, right? So I feel like I'm always pitching that. So peak day and peak week maybe don't matter as much, even though I did hit my peak week in this build. But I think the 20-mile days is a pretty good number.
Yeah, I looked at that and I thought, I blew mine out of the water. I was like, oh, wow, most 20-mile days I've ever put together in a block. And then I sent you my training comparison, and you had a even crazier number. So tell us how many 20-mile days you did.
I had 39 20-mile days and in a 14-week build. And comparing that to other builds, I had 25 this fall when I was getting ready for CIM. And before that, out of all my marathon builds, the most I'd ever had is 11. So basically, what I take from that is my last 6 or 7 months have been my best ever, like volume wise, 6 or 7 months by far
Yeah, and 20-mile days, that means,
with a
that,
double.
yeah, with a double or a triple for me, or a long run day, uh, like how many times did the day combine for over 20 miles? And I did the same number run, and I ran 32 20-mile days, and I would have thought like, wow, that's a 10 bump from my biggest previous block. So Chicago last fall, I had 22 days over 20 miles, and this build was 32. So I upped it by, almost 50% this build versus previous ones, which to me is that's like a whoa, that jumps off the page to me. Um
Yeah, I mean, mine was 14. That's 2 weeks worth of
yeah.
20 mile days that I and before that it was almost 2 weeks from the next highest one. So I think that's a yeah, gives me a lot of confidence looking at it. And the other good number I like here is 20-mile runs. So the marathon, we talk so much about like this fatigue resistance and doing these like long sessions that are hard mentally or physically, but also like mentally, just staying locked in for a long period of time. And so these are basically all long runs. I had 12, 20 or more mile long runs in this build up out of 14. I did count the half marathon day in New York,
If you hit
and
20 with warm up and cool down,
yeah,
you count it.
so that was two of those I counted, but so yeah, 10 of them were just 20-mile plus long runs, and two of them were race days that I hit 20
Yeah.
plus in the race day.
I had 11. I think I had two 19-mile days with like, I think New York, I only cooled down enough to hit 19 on the day. So I didn't get my 12th, but yeah, pretty much in lockstep there. And that was 5 more than last year's Boston build. Last year for Boston, I only had 7 20-mile, which I look back and I'm like, really? Only 7? Only
Yeah,
like half the block on the weekends? But, you know, if you have a workout that's 18-mile, we don't count it. Like
yeah,
we put the threshold at 20 because it's fun. It's a round number, but it's something to look at. The biggest difference for me from 2026 Boston build to these previous 2 marathon builds that I considered my best at the time, like Boston 25 was my best build. Chicago 25, I would say, was a step up from that, was the zoom out look at like what I'm averaging throughout a block. And in 2026 Boston build, my 16-week average is 115 miles. My 12-week peak average is 120, 8-week 126, and 4-week was 131. And comparing that to Boston and Chicago, it's about 5 to 10 miles more per week on average for each category.
yeah,
And my biggest like thing here is we talk about consistency is like my 8-week was a big jump and my 12-week was a big jump from even Chicago last fall.
yeah. That's pretty impressive. I very similar. I pulled a 14-week average, which was 119, and a 12-week average was 121, so it's about the same. And then my 4-week average, the highest like peak 4 weeks was 128. And comparing that to, I was comparing it to the fall to CIM when I ran 210. Like I was averaging, so I averaged 12 miles a week more over 14 or 15 weeks. Like it's nearly 200 miles more that I ran in the same amount of time in this
Yep.
build up. And then it's kind of funny to look back to my previous PR before CIM was from 2023, and yeah, I averaged my 14-week average was 98 for that build up.
Yeah.
And
Not
that's
even
when I was going through like the hip issues. And yeah, my peak stuff or my peak week was pretty much the same from that Gold Coast build, but I was not able to do anywhere close to the
sustained.
density,
Yeah.
like yeah, constrained for a long period of time. So that's something I'm taking a lot of I don't know, satisfaction and confidence from just looking at the build. I mean, talking about your build is, I feel like, kind of easy and cheap, but you got to go back it up on race day. But it does put me mentally in a place where I can step on the line, like really believing and having a lot of confidence in what I've done. Whereas, previous builds, maybe at the time I thought I was in good shape, but looking back now, I'm like, oh, there was so much more there I could have done.
Yeah. It's like I've done 13 marathons now, and I can look back on all 13 blocks. This will be number 14 in Boston. And going into each race, you convince yourself, hey, I'm going to be great. Like, it's going to go well. Like, I'm going to do this. And then when you take a step back and analyze things further post race, you can kind of go, I think I know why that didn't go well. Like, I can see these like little signs. And why I did this analysis for this build is I was just curious, and I felt like I was like, man, I feel like this is the best work I've ever done, and I almost wanted to be like, is it though? Like, let me actually dive into the numbers because I don't start a build being like, oh, these are the averages I want to hit. This is the amount of 20 like I'm really ebbing and flowing with the build as much as I can and listening to my body. And my coach, John Green, doesn't tell me like, hey, make sure you check your box for how many 20-mile days we're gonna hit this build. It's we're writing all of our training in pencil, and it's week to week and it's month to month. So when we get to the end of the build and you see these numbers, that shows that you were absorbing the training as you went and you were able to keep doubling down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, looking back at this work, I'm really happy with what I did, and I know you are too. And yeah, workout wise, like yeah, all the workouts were pretty good. Like I feel like I kept everything like right in that window, like we talked about earlier. Like nothing I did was bad. Nothing I also feel like nothing I did like jumps out the paper and is like, oh, that's an insane workout. But it's like, oh, I had like B plus A minus workouts for 14 weeks, 2 or 3 of them every single week, while holding the highest mileage I've ever done. And I've been able to, so far heading into the last week here, like
yeah,
stay in one piece, feel really good. I've also been like really on top of treatment and sleep and all that kind of stuff that it's easy when life gets busy to let that kind of slip to the side sometimes. But I feel like I've, really stayed on top of stuff.
so what, aside from these obvious numbers, we just listed numbers mean whatever they mean, right? Like, got to translate it. What do you feel like you did best to this build? Like, what was the one thing that you're like, that was awesome. I'm really glad I did it this way, or those workouts tended to feel better than previous blocks. Is there something that stands out to you?
That's the thing. I don't think anything like besides the mileage number, I don't think anything like stands out. It was just like, hey, I can look back at that and that's really good density for a really long period of time. Now we just got to go capitalize on it
Yeah.
in race day. Like I feel like I very much in this build practice what I preach as far as the consistency and just getting out and doing a lot of volume and doing a lot of workouts and everything being pretty good.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I can look back at these previous 3 marathon builds, and each one kind of has a theme of something that clicked better than previous builds. And it's funny, they haven't been the same. Like, I keep finding different little nuggets of like improvement or things that are feeling better than normal. So like Boston last year, I had like a very consistent strong build, but I had like 1 or 2 workouts that just blew my mind kind of things. It was more like the wow factor of like my last key session really gave me confidence going in. And my 10K that I did 3 weeks out really gave me confidence going in. So I can kind of point to a couple standout days where I was like, that was awesome. That feels great. In Chicago, I didn't really have that home run day that convinced me, oh yeah, you're gonna crush. I had good workouts. I had workouts that were consistent with what I was trying to get out of the build, but that one was, oh, my threshold readings are better than ever. Like, I'm getting lower lactate at faster paces. That's improving. For me, this build, my speed has been better than ever before. And that's kind of an exciting thing. And the races, the half marathons went really well. So those are my 2 like key takeaways. I'm like, oh well, I raced better halves than I've ever raced. And my like speed endurance work, that 5K, 10K stuff, for some reason took a step up this build. So those are my little key takeaways.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we both put together, excuse me, put together really good builds. And yeah, now we just got to do the hard part of like chilling out and getting to the starting line.
And staying confident, staying calm, staying present. Yeah, get to the start line, get in one piece. I guess we'll finish today with a like Boston specific history lesson because we were talking on our Wednesday medium long run, our last one of the build on A1 Road, famous road here in Flagstaff. We were talking about how the sport has changed in the sense of depth, and we feel like it's just kind of a crazy like looking at the list, you're always like, man, there's a lot of guys with fast times here. And also looking at past results, take last year, for example, 10th place last year at the Boston Marathon was 2:08 flat by Ryan Ford. Historically, we were like, well, what does it take normally to get 10th place at Boston? And, time can be a little bit weather dependent, especially in Boston. But I think there's a lesson to be learned about the depth of the sport right now by looking at history and like super shoes be damned, weather be damned. There's a trend that people are getting better and the depth is growing.
Yeah, we pulled 10th place for the last 15 years. And even going back to the course record year, the Ryan Hall year when he ran 204 for fourth, that was the only other year that 208 would have gotten 10th place, and it was 208.44. And that was
Perfect year.
perfect year, course record weather,
20
tailwind.
mile an hour tailwind.
And yeah, now that's not even the fastest 10th place finish anymore. And still, I forget, I texted you. Oh, 218 would have still gotten 20th place in that race. If you run 218 next week,
You're 40th,
you're
30th.
not even close to sniffing the top 20 at Boston. I think, and the reason we kind of got on this topic was, Rory's run 206, and he's, 19th on the descending order list?
Yeah, maybe 16th or 17th now with some scratches, but still.
Yeah, and I've run 210, and I'm 41st on the list. So, that's the depth of this race is pretty crazy, especially, so Boston, it's hard to take all these PRs because Boston is not historically a PR course. The weather plays a huge factor. It is a point-to-point course.
Weather looks good, by the way, right now as we speak.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so the interesting thing here I pulled is, so 2019 it was 209. 2021 was when CJ was 10th and 211. 2022 was 209. 2023 was 210. 2024 was 210. Last year was 208. But before that, so 2018 was obviously the crazy weather year, that 218 or something.
Yeah, Dez and Yuki won.
Yeah, and so 227, but we're going to kind of throw that one out because obviously it's an insane year. But even before that, 2017, Jared Ward was 10th, 215.
And if I remember that one correctly, because I was around Jared at the time, it was like a warm day in Boston, but not like atrocious. It was like 70 degrees maybe by the finish. And yeah, the depth fell off quick.
Yeah. And then, so the year before that was 221 was 10th. And then 213.52 was 10th. 2014 was 212. 2013 was 214. 2012 was 218. So basically what we're trying to get at is like just a decade ago, basically, if you were a 215 guy, you had a shot to be 15th place, be 10th place on any given day at Boston, where now I think the level is so high that, I mean, you've even said you could have the best race. You could have a comparable race to what you had last year or to your Chicago PR race and still not crack the top 10 in this field.
Yeah, and I think I will, but I also acknowledge that it's out of my control if 10 really good guys have really good days. There's just enough talent in the field these days that, and people don't die like they used to. I think that's the biggest thing is I think we have more talent, more depth, and less catastrophic blowups than ever before because of super shoes. And like, even if you take like a super shoe conversion calculator, which nobody has a good one because everybody responds to super shoes differently. But I've heard a lot of people throw around like, hey, add 2 minutes to everything. We're still seeing a boom. We're still seeing a depth boom, a talent boom in the roads. And it's like, this era is unlike any other in terms of the depth we're getting in these races. And it's exciting. It's also like, man, how do I position myself to stand out here? It's like that. It's really like a rising tide lifts all ships, and I'm excited for Boston. I think the sky's the limit, but I also have to acknowledge that there's a bunch of dogs in this race, and there's no guarantee that 5 of them have bad races or 10 of them have bad races. They could all show up and run well, and you kind of have to almost pretend and act like you're going to have to fight for every place.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fight for every place. I think the big thing with Boston now, too, is people aren't really afraid to go out hard and take those risks. So, like, there probably will still be a couple blowups, but yeah, it's going to go out fast. It's going to be like, it's net downhill the first half of the race. Like, last year you guys were 61.50 something. Like, probably going to be pretty similar to that this year if the weather's not crazy. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the race breaks up, who makes it to Newton, who can get through that 5-mile segment of the Newton Hills. And then the big thing to remember is that the race doesn't end at the top of Heartbreak, right? You still have 5 miles of of hard running from the top of Heartbreak to get to Boylston Street. So
Yeah. My hot take to close my thoughts on this is that if we saw a perfect day, I think you could see a major on US soil where you have three Americans run 206 or better. You have 206 as 10th place in a race like this. You have some really insane outlier points. And I think this field is kind of like it's brewing its way to something crazy like this. And I look at New York half and I go, that was an outlier year in New York half. Go look at history of that course. It wasn't even that great of weather. It was just decent weather and just people just showed up ready to fight. And I think if Boston has decent weather, you're going to see some fireworks as far as depth goes. I think it's going to be really fun for spectators at home, and yeah, it's an interesting game, and it's exciting for me as a competitor, and I'm sure for you too, JT. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. And
yeah, I'm pumped. My parents are coming out to Boston, so my wife will be there as well. So it'll be pretty cool to have, yeah, a lot of friends and family there. There's a lot of people in the running community that are going to be out there. And if you do happen to be cheering, if you're going to Boston to cheer and you see Rory or I on the race course, please, yeah, take some pictures, take some videos, DM them to us.
yeah, horizontal videos for the YouTube plugs would be great. And also, while we're talking, if you're in Boston, we got to shout out our
Shake
shakeout.
out.
So 12:30 at what is the Hatch Memorial Shell?
Hatch Memorial Shell. It's right on the Esplanade, and our hats are in. I'll probably put this in the intro as well, but yeah, we got 80 of these bad boys printed up. We're gonna get them out hopefully on Shopify. If anybody has any experience with these things, maybe yeah, drop us a comment and let us know. 'Cause we're trying to navigate our way through it, but I think I'm gonna try to bring 30 or 40 of them with us to the shakeout to sell as well. So hopefully we see a lot of you guys out there, and
Yeah.
yeah, can't wait to get to Boston, baby.
Yep. Yep. Happy taper for everyone running a marathon this next week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. And yeah, see you guys in Boston. There's going to be a lot of excitement and we appreciate the support. Follow slash like subscribe on our YouTube channel. JT just started YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe his. Please continue to support mine. If you aren't already, jump on that bandwagon. Uh, the training is done. Hay's in the barn, as they say. You might just have some fine tuning to do now. Enjoy it. And yeah, try to not psych yourself out.
Yeah, we'll see you in Hopkinton.
Hopkinton or,
Hopkinton.
yeah, or before the race in Boston. Hey, cheers.
All right. I think you just got to hit. If you hit stop on that, you'd be done.
Perfect.
How long?